Hello there. Welcome to our summit today, and you're going to love the interviews with our two guests, both of which have left very illustrious, very rigid type careers to become much more passionate about what they do, and I'm excited to let them share their stories. Wayne left a banking career of over 28 years to become a massage therapist and coach. And Laurie, our first guest, was a legal instructor, a law school instructor for 32 years, and became now a writing coach, mentor, and you're going to love her transition. So I hope you'll enjoy and listen to our first guest, Ms. Laurie Morin. Welcome, Laurie.
I am so pleased to welcome Laurie Morin. Laurie has, we were just kidding around about the fact that she's a reformed professor of law and creating her own new niche. And I'll let her share a little bit about her background and tell you her reinvention story. Laurie, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Bobby. Happy to be here. And the word I used actually was recovering lawyer and law professor. Just like I'm a recovering Catholic, I'm recovering from a lot of things. But yes, I was a lawyer for about 35 years, and I was a law professor for most of that time. So when I thought about retiring, not because I didn't like the job, but because I didn't like the commute. I had an hour-and-a-half commute every day into DC, which, if you know anything about it, has one of the worst traffic patterns in the entire country. So I wanted to get away from that. And I also thought it'd be nice to try something else. So I thought I had a plan. About 5 years before I was ready to retire, I started taking coaching classes, and I got all my certifications. I even had a few clients. I led some workshops, and I thought, this is going to be great. It'll be a pretty easy transition. I know what I'm going to do when I finish my law professor career. A couple of things happened. The first one was I didn't realize how much of my identity was caught up in being a law professor. And it's like I retired, and all of a sudden I was like, if I'm not a law professor, who am I? And why would anybody want to do coaching with me? I'm really a law professor. So there were a lot of identity questions. But the other thing that happened was I retired at the end of 2019. My mother, who was 88 at the time, got sick. And I lived in North Carolina. She lived in Massachusetts. So that was a challenge. And then I was up there kind of helping my mother through rehab, and COVID hit. So I had to kind of rush around, get her out of rehab and get her home, because they were going to close the place down and not even allow visitors. And all of that kind of got in the way of my coaching business, because my model had been, well, first of all, when I retired, I was going to take a gap year, and I was going to travel around the world. And I was going to scope out all these really cool places to hold retreats. And then after I found all these places, my model was mostly to do group work and to hold retreats. Because I believe that going on retreat is the best way to really find the time, to take the time for yourself, to figure out who you are, what you want to do, what matters to you. And it kind of just fit in with my thoughts about where I wanted to take my coaching career. So that's kind of my reinvention story in a nutshell. Except that since I had really 3 years with my mother being ill, with COVID keeping us from traveling, and without really much time to focus on what I was going to do next, because I was driving back and forth to Massachusetts, taking care of mom. Sometimes I'd get a call before I even got home. I'd get a call, oh, mom's back in the ER again, and I'd go back up. So that didn't leave a lot of either emotional or physical time and space to
Right.
work on a career. But in the meantime, when I did have time at home, I couldn't go out and meet people. So I remembered I had this book that was sitting on my shelf. I had gone to a 3-day writing retreat with this guy called Tom Bird. Write your book in a weekend. I was like, yeah, sure. You can't write a whole book in a weekend. But I did have, I don't know, 30,000 words written.
Wow.
They were just all these disjointed fragments, stories I wanted to tell. They were all about my life. I wanted to write a memoir. But I had no idea like how they all fit together or where to go with them. So I pulled that off the shelf and I did this thing that he had taught us called a storyboard, where you take a sheet of poster paper and post-it notes, and you just put these things all over until you figure out what order you want to put them in. And then you kind of have an outline so you can start writing. And once I did that, I started writing my book, and I actually finished it and self-published it and had beta readers and editors and the whole 9 yards. And in the process of doing that, I thought, well, maybe I don't really want to just be a life coach, although I've got a lot of life experience and I got a lot of things I could share about that, but maybe I want to be a writing coach, because I think, like many people, books saved my life when I was a kid. I loved to read. That's what kind of fueled my love for travel, reading about all these places all over the world and wanting to see them and wanting to meet people, wanting to experience other cultures. And I always loved writing. And, you know, as a lawyer, you have to write a lot of stuff. But I had to unlearn what I learned about writing in law school. Actually, I taught legal writing as one of my courses. And one of the things you told students in a legal writing class is, nobody cares what you feel. They only care about the facts. So, it was a pretty dry and regimented way of writing that I had to unlearn to write my book. And I thought, I can help other professionals who are coming from all different disciplines, but actually want to write something personal. And so I started doing that. And I've run some classes. I've worked with a few people. And in the meantime, I started working on my second memoir, which I'm writing now, which is a book about my experiences in the 1970s, when it was peace, love, and rock and roll at the time. And I was one of those kids. I dropped out of college. I traveled. I joined Vista. I did a number of things to try and figure out what I really wanted out of life. And I thought, this is a good parable for our times, because there are so many things about this decade that resemble the 1970s. The country is divided, especially politically. There's a lot of dissension. We have the Gulf War, and then now we've got, when we had Afghanistan, and now we have, everything that's going on with Russia's war of aggression. During my time in the 70s, we had the Vietnam War, and it caused a lot of dissension among people. So that's one parallel. The other parallel is, I don't know if many people will remember this, but Ms. Magazine was started in 1972. And then Roe versus Wade was decided in 1973.
Right.
So I lived through that whole period of feminism and consciousness raising groups and, women learning to stick up for themselves, make their way in the world. And now, with the Supreme Court reversal of Roe versus Wade and with a lot of things that are happening politically, I feel like we've gone right back to where we were. 50 years of history, have pretty much been wiped out by the current Supreme Court. So I'm writing a memoir to kind of draw the parallels between those decades and see if we as a country can learn anything from what we've already been through.
That's amazing. I think that you're going to hit a lot of nerves with that, because each of us, I mean, I was a child of the 70s myself, so I have experienced a lot of those same feelings, and the frustration that not only are we confused as a nation, but we're fighting as a nation. I mean, I can remember all the protests and all of that, but now instead of protesting, people go out and shoot each other, and I think I say this to people, and I think because women talk to each other and communicate with each other, we don't pick up a gun and go out and kill innocent people. I think that all these mass murderers have been men because they just don't have that outlet. They don't have the built-in technology mentally to let it go and process it. And, the quiet desperation that Thoreau talked about is literally alive and well in the 2023. I mean, it's just terrible. So we've got to figure out a way to relate to one another, help each other process those negatives and get loose of that, because otherwise I think our country is just, just going to keep spiraling downward. I don't want to get on a negative tangent here, but it's very important to me, as it is to you, to say, wake up, wake up and reinvent ourselves, because we all have to want the best for each other, not just the best for ourselves.
No, that's right. One of the things I always tell people about feminism and patriarchy is it's just as bad for men as it is for women. And you were saying men are the ones who pick up guns. Well, they're taught from an early age not to talk about their feelings.
Be aggressive.
Be aggressive. And so it's not surprising that that's the way they carry out their fears and frustrations. We have different ways of processing it. They may be the very same fears and frustrations.
But we have the ability. I'm a big follower of Brene Brown, and the fact that we are not afraid to be vulnerable with each other, not afraid to be authentic with each other. Let the dirt on my shirt show, and the fact that I've made mistakes, that I failed, make a difference, because then you're not putting such pressure on yourself that you have to push out, have to be aggressive. So so tell everybody how your life has changed since you started this new writing career.
Well, it's been slow, because it really does feel like a major shift. The shift to coaching didn't feel so major because it's not that different from teaching. But the shift to thinking of myself as a writer first, has been huge. I had a fifth grade teacher who gave me a D in art. And she told my mother the reason she did that was so that I would learn I wasn't perfect. And it has stuck with me ever since that I'm not creative, and even though teachers in college encouraged me with my writing and, thought that I was a good writer, I never was able to take that in as a part of my own identity. So I just came back from a writing retreat in Florida with a group of women who all call themselves writers. And that's one of the things we talked about is what does it bring up for you when you call yourself a writer?
Mhm.
You know, do you feel good enough? Do you compare yourself to others? Do you think you should be further along in your career?
Mhm.
So it's a process.
Right. It is a process. I totally agree with that. And I've written or co-written 5 books and planning a 6th one this year. And it really is about saying that there's going to be one person that this book will touch. And
Right.
in my last book, I've had many people say, come up to me and say, it really made a difference for me. And though if you write just for one person, you're talking to one person, then you don't have to ask yourself, well, am I good as so-and-so, or am I this or
Right.
that? I mean,
Right.
because there is one person that you're going to talk to. And sometimes it's ourselves,
Usually it does include ourselves, right?
Well, I know that that's true, but I mean, as far as we work through our
Right.
own, it's like giving birth, it's a process, and you have to allow that to be, yes, it's okay. I'm not, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be me, because none of us are perfect. So I get where you're coming from, because I published my first book in 2014, the same year I started the Reinvention retreat. And it was a wild and crazy time to be thinking, well, do I have anything to offer? You just have to put that aside and say, I'm writing this for this one person that's going to make a difference for.
That's right. Yeah, I love that you said that, writing for one person. When I do my writing classes, one of the first exercises we do is write a letter to your ideal reader. And I have students in the class picture one very specific person, whether it's somebody they know or somebody they imagine. But a lot of times it is a daughter, a niece, a former student, somebody who you think can be empowered and inspired by what you have to say. And if you do that, what you write just comes out so much more real and authentic.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the personal thing, because you want to relay your message, and you do so in not a stilted way. It's honest and forthright. And that changes everything. I mean, it changes everything. So, awesome. So how did reinventing affect your mission? I think most of us have decided we have a mission in life, and I'm sure you do. And so will you share that with us?
Yes. So I'm not sure that it changed it so much as it changed the form that it took, because my mission, ever since I started my legal career and probably before that, has always been to empower other women. And that is also why I write. And it's also why I teach writing, because I think helping women to write their own personal stories is a transformational process. It changes who you are. It changes what you believe about yourself. It changes how you see the world. It often changes how you see your childhood. So the mission still is to empower, maybe to even inspire women to step into who they really are.
Beautiful. That's great. What lesson would you like to share with our readers or with our listeners? I want to say readers, because you're right.
Readers and listeners. So I've learned a lot of lessons doing this, but I just learned one at the writing retreat I went to, where we had 5 days, and I went with a goal in mind to write a certain amount of words and chapters for my new book. And when I got there, I kind of got diverted And when we had our closing, what I said was my lesson from that experience was sometimes you need time just to be. We spend so much time being busy and productive and checking things off of our to-do list. It doesn't leave mental and emotional space to just be. And unless you fill yourself up with that, with just watching a beautiful sunrise, watching the dolphins play in the ocean, unless you fill yourself up, you really don't have anything to give. So that's the lesson I'd like to share. You need that time. We all need to refresh and renew ourselves, which is why retreats are such a wonderful thing. And I know you want to talk about the reinvention retreat, so I'll let you go to there.
Well, you've already led that. I mean, you've mentioned retreats a couple, 3 times, and it's wonderful that I didn't share this, but Laurie had been a speaker on one of my previous retreats. And so when I reached out and said, well, COVID's done, we're going to do this again. And she said, oh, I'm excited. I'm ready to come. And I was so delighted because I know the impact that stepping away, getting yourself, without your cell phone, without your distraction, and be surrounding yourself with positive people that are like-minded, who know that there's more to life than, the everyday dollar, all of the different things that constantly are pulling at us. And so I was so glad that she said yes. And I'm delighted that you're going to be sharing on the cruise about how to write and how to get started putting your life story into a story. So I love that. I'm very excited about it. So
I'm delighted to be coming too. And, one of the beauties of being a speaker is you also get to experience all the other speakers. And I always learn so much from listening to other people who are just coming at things from a different perspective, different way of doing things. I'm actually a licensed passion test facilitator, but doing the passion test with somebody else leading it is such a valuable experience. That alone is worth the price of admission, is going through the passion test process.
I know.
So,
and we're going to have, I think, probably 8 or 10 of us that are all passion test facilitators along to help everybody else, because Beth Lefebvre is going to be doing the passion test, and she's a master trainer with the passion test corporate, and she's the one who taught me and several of the other people. And so it's like they all said, if Beth's going to do that, we're coming, so it's so exciting. And what I'm going to share, and that since you brought it up, is that having a facilitator there as your partner, helping you draw out yourself, is going to be fantastic for all of our attendees. So, and that we're going to have so many of us, and I'm going to make sure we all are paired up with different people that we can really make some impact for them. So I think that's great.
Yeah, that's fabulous. I mean, one of the things about the passion test is your passions change over time. And sometimes you get something that surprises you.
Yeah.
Like the last time I did it, I got one of my top 5 was to create a community. And as an introvert, that wasn't something I had really thought about.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny, because when they did it, when Janet did it with Jack Canfield, that was his 6th passion. And he ended up creating the emboldened, leaders around the world. And that he was the catalyst for that. So the enlightened or empowered and whatever they call themselves. But I just was like, again, he was like you. I never even been on my radar. So I just think sometimes there's surprises, and that's good, because again, that shows you what's going on in the back of your mind. and it starts to surface and starts to surface, and then all of a sudden it blossoms as a passion. So that's
Right.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's a lifelong journey, you know?
That's right. Absolutely. Laurie, you've got a gift for our folks watching today. You want to tell us a little about that?
Yes, I am giving a short ebook that is about your origin story. And we all are familiar with origin stories, like for superheroes. So you think of, I like to think of Wonder Woman and her origin story growing up among Amazonian women on an island, and what was, what that was like for her. But a lot of times our origin stories are the stories that were given to us by our parents and teachers. They told us what we were like as a kid. Oh, you were the shy one. Oh, you were the athletic one. You'll never be able to do this, but you're really good at this. And we never question it. And we carry that story around in our heads for the rest of our lives. So this little gift is, I think it's a 5-step process to really look at where those stories came from and question them and keep the parts that you think still fit for you and create the parts that are new and that really reflect who you are.
Awesome. I should definitely download that one. My mother used to introduce me as her daughter who wouldn't say shit if she had a mouthful. I was very quiet, and people are like, no, she didn't say that. Because now it's like, oh, there she goes. Yeah. And she probably is turning over in her grave watching me stand on podiums and talk to people and lead retreats and do all this stuff. So it's kind of a fun thing though, to recognize that this is what you love and who you really are, and turning those stories around. Well, why do people get that impression? Well, there was a fear, or there was a this, or there was a that, and then you've gotten past it. You've moved on, and now you can rewrite your story, reinvent yourself. Well, we've kind of covered how important retreats are, which I usually close with, but I hope that everybody will join us. And is there anything that I didn't ask that you wanted to share today?
No, I don't think so. I would just say, please come. It's really going to be an incredible experience. And you will leave a different person than you came.
I've had a couple of people say, I'm afraid to come, because they're afraid of what's hiding inside.
Right. We're all afraid to be real and authentic. It's scary, but it's worth it.
It is worth it. And even if you discover something, you can allow yourself time to let that nurture. You don't have to go out and throw everything away, quit your job, get a divorce.
Right.
No, you can bring these things alive in new ways in yourself. And that I call it it's not a midlife crisis, it's a midlife opportunity. Or, I love when I write my books, I write them for my granddaughter, who's 25, 30, and so watching her and wanting to say, these are the truths that I've learned. These are the things that are important to me. And I hope that you don't have to go through the crap. You don't have to wade through all that stuff.
Exactly.
You can go on the high road and take, avoid all those things. But,
so if you do have to make your own mistakes, at least you'll have a guide.
Exactly. Yeah. I usually tell people that's how I view myself. I'm kind of the tour guide. Okay. I wouldn't go down that road. That's not the best road to take. Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing you in January and giving you a big hug again. And thank you so much for joining us today. And thanks all of our audience for being with us today.
Thank you, Bobby. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, dear. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Many thanks to Laurie Morin for her great interview, and this is her contact page. Again, I invite you to pause so you can take a picture of this page so you'll have her information. She's giving you a free gift for helping you to rewrite your origin story as she did, and it will be very helpful to break through some barriers for you as you begin your own reinvention. Laurie and I both invite you to join us on board the Reinvention retreat coming in January. Please use her link here to join us, and the code SUMMIT, all capital letters, to save yourself $200 on your Reinvention retreat fee. We thank you for being with us and look forward to introducing you to our next guest, Wayne Leiss. My next interview is with Wayne Leiss. As I shared earlier, he is a recovering banker. He will give you some insights how he made his transition to the road less traveled after 28 years in a career. And so I know you'll enjoy my interview with Wayne, and hopefully you'll be able to use some of his insights to help yourself make a journey that is going to delight and fill you with joy each and every day. Welcome, Wayne.
I am so excited to let you meet my next guest. This is Wayne Leiss. He is a reformed banker. He has done all kinds of things to make his life more complete, and I invited him today to share with you a little bit about himself and how his reinvention can help you make yours. So welcome, Wayne. Let's hear
Thank
a
you,
little
Bobby.
bit
It's
about
great
you.
to be here. It's great to be here.
Good. Tell us a little bit about you, Wayne.
Well, I spent 28 years in banking, in IT and IT security, and I was a vice president of a bank, and I was miserable. My office was located in a basement with no natural light. I had, I was focusing more and more on soul-sucking tedium, which is not what I'm good at. I'm a big picture kind of guy, and I would get to work and I'd put one foot on the ground outside the car, and it would take me 5 minutes to convince myself to put the other foot on the ground and go in, and not put the first foot back in the car and go home. And I don't want to, when you're getting paid to go to work, you kind of need to go to work. So it was not a way to live. And, the company culture was changing from one that was focused on community service towards one that was more profit-based. And I didn't have the time or extra money to travel like I wanted. So I decided to make a change at that point.
Awesome. Well, what kind of change did you make?
Well, at that point, I wasn't a life coach at that point, but I was working with a nonprofit, the Richfield Theater Barn, which is a group that I've been with for 35 years now. And they needed an executive director, and I decided they were willing to hire me, and I left the bank to become the first paid executive director at the theater. And when I did that, I had to do something else to help balance the books, because as you can imagine, vice president of a bank salary and executive director of a small nonprofit theater salary, slightly different. So I went to school to become a massage therapist. And at that point, I had got introduced to doTERRA essential oils and was using them in my practice. And when the theater job didn't pan out financially for me or the theater, I left the theater and decided to go into essential oils full time with my massage practice. And that now, my home office looks over a nice green lawn. The sun shines through my windows instead of fake sunlight downstairs in a basement. And when I get tired of the view, I can work anywhere. Really, it's a great job to have. The massage, I have to actually be in person, but the essential oils, I don't. And then, doTERRA is known for their global philanthropy. So I was able to get back into the philanthropic aspect of, my business and how my business could support, philanthropy, which is something that I was raised on.
Well, that's wonderful. I am so pleased you found a way. It's interesting because several of our interviewees have found nonprofit to be a great outlet for their that need to shine and to get out there and make some changes and make an impact. You were making an impact on individuals and then at a more global level with doTERRA and some of the other things. So that's beautiful. Tell us how your life changed after this big change.
Well, I now had the freedom to travel whenever I wanted, because like I said, travel, while fun, also brings opportunities, and all the people I meet along the way can become potential customers and business partners. So, my newest offering, which is the life coaching with the Clifton Strengths Report, allows me to help you operate your life through your strengths and to get the joy as well as results. You can always do what the successful people do. If you do everything they do, you're going to have results, but you might not have joy. But if you do all the things your way, you might have joy, but you might not get results. But if you do all the things the successful people do in a way that honors your strengths and the way you like to do business, you can have results and joy. And don't we all deserve that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That working with people's strengths, that's something that, again, kind of been a good thread throughout our summit, is that people really, once they identify their strengths, their passions, their purpose, things become much clearer, about what the next decision should be and which path to take and which client to work with and which ones not to work with. So it gives us a little bit more control, not that, we want to make good decisions, but we also want to make them that are going to be appropriate for our lifestyle and not stress us out. So that's awesome. It's really beautiful. How did reinventing affect your mission?
Well, one of my most recognizable traits is my ability to immerse myself in things. And so my life changed again when I signed up for seminars at a place called Easton Mountain, which is a retreat center, welcoming space for gay men. And that teaches the benefits of being authentic in all aspects of your life. Now, I did this before I did the strengths and before I became a massage therapist. So this set the groundwork for all of what came forward, and I discovered a connection with people like me and realized that my purpose in life means taking on challenges that I devote myself to with all my heart. The courses I took at Easton, including a course called Authentic Eros, which focuses on being truly authentic in all aspects of our lives, complemented my studies with massage and eventually with essential oils and now in strengths coaching. So in 2015, I learned, the day before I turned 50, I left banking. That was my last day of banking. So it was I know you call it a midlife crisis or a midlife, I don't call it a crisis because it was really a midlife reinvention,
Exactly.
So in 2014, I left the bank and went to massage school. So I got my license in 2015, set up my practice incorporating the oils. And as I learned more about the oils, I wanted to and the benefits they had physically for myself, I wanted to teach about them. So I went to one of our annual conventions, fell in love with the company's philosophy that supports farmers and espouses purity, honesty, and loyalty, which are things that I think are really important, and decided to, like I said, to move into the essential oil and massage realm and out of the theater. And then in 2018, I was able to make one of my dreams come true. I took 7 weeks and drove cross country. I had never done that before. I had 7 states that I hadn't visited yet, and I was able to see them all. This country is full of such beauty and splendor. I didn't visit all the states on this trip. It was only 7 weeks long. It was really cool because I got to work along the way. Convention was in the middle of the trip. So the whole trip was a business trip. And, while most people thought I was on vacation, I was actually enjoying working and seeing the country and visiting friends, old and new. And so after spending, these several years exploring and trying to help everyone I could, I took some time in 2020, as we all kind of had time to take in 2020, to settle at home, then evaluate again and decide how my business could best fit my philosophy of giving and living. So in that process, I reinvented my massage and oil practices for a future that reflects my past and defined my mission. So who I am, I offer adventures in connection, helping men connect with themselves and to begin the greatest adventure of their lives through oils, touch, spoken word, and strengths coaching.
Wonderful. That's a great mission statement. I love it. How is that working out for you? I mean, do you feel comfortable with it? And how does people respond when you share that with them?
I do feel comfortable, and people are, especially, my target market, men, and in particular men who love men, really resonate with it because they have somebody in their corner.
Okay.
There's a lot of people, in the essential oil world, there's a lot of women, and there's a lot of women instructors and women go to, but there's a lot of men who enjoy that stuff too. I have a t-shirt, real men oil up. Maybe I'll bring it on the cruise, but
there you go. There you go.
It's just, it's something that is, it's people resonate with it, and it's a lot of, it's right to the core where I am, and I like making, when I reevaluated and worked with a branding expert in 2020, she interviewed me and did all these questions, and we came up with Adventures in Connection as the name of my company, partially because of the adventures that I like to go on, and also that I like to make connections wherever I go. And the funny part is, I didn't know at the time, but my anchor strength is connectedness. So it really all resonates and comes together. So it's it fits.
I'm not surprised, because I think it's, again, most of us have these strengths for a reason. I mean, they are embedded in our soul. And I did a purpose exercise and found out that mine is empowering purpose, empowering. And so empowering people to enjoy their passions and find their purpose. And so you look at it like, okay, that's exactly right. That's who I am, and so these things do work, it's really great. So I love that.
And the thing about Clifton Strengths, when you do the assessment, there are 34 different strengths that everybody has the same 34 strengths. What's unique about it is they're all in your own order. So there's no two people statistically would have the same answers, their strengths ranked in the same order, and they're all strengths. There's some stuff that we resonate with more that are our top strengths, and there's some we resonate with less, which are our bottom strengths, but they're all strengths. There's no weaknesses. So when we work with, with the strengths coaching, we work to help people work through the qualities of their top strengths, which makes them happier. And the strengths are grouped into 4 domains, which are strategic thinking, relationship building, influencing, and executing. And depending on what you have in your top 10, which domains are more relevant for you. So you work in the way of those, in a way that honors those domains.
Wow. It makes a total sense, because then I look at my own life, been diagnosed as an influencer, and people that, empowerment and all those kinds of things. And so, we can look at that and go, oh yeah, that's me, that's me, that's me.
Yeah.
And so that really helps. And I love that they don't put it as strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
I love it that it's all strength, and focus on those, because too much in life is focused on the negative. I've got to fix that, or I've got to change that, or I've got to get rid of that.
Right. And why work on your weaknesses when you can work in your strengths? And like I said, we
Absolutely.
don't look at them as weaknesses. We just look at them as strengths we don't like to use as much.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and then that's the best part is you find someone else that has those strengths high, and then together you make a fantastic team, whether it's a team in marriage, whether it's a team in business or entrepreneurship, or whether it's, a sports team. Anybody, if you work in your strengths and they work in their strengths, you can complement each other, and together everybody comes out stronger.
Yeah. My sister, when she was getting her master's, gave everybody in our family, the spouses, the siblings, everybody, and all of the siblings in our family were extroverts to the max.
Okay.
And then with the spouses, most of them were not. I mean,
Okay.
it's because it made that union and that strength. And so you're like, wow, but my husband and I were the only couple that had exactly opposite in everything. Exactly opposite in everything. So where I'm a huge extrovert, he's a huge introvert. And, I mean, it was just exactly down the road, and so you look at it like, those are not weaknesses. Those are his strengths,
Right.
And so if once you come to understand that, it's a huge
And
deal.
he can get a lot of things done that you probably hate doing because,
Absolutely.
it's,
Absolutely.
and I see the way he supports you with, with the back end of what you're doing here. And that's,
Yeah,
gives
he's
everybody
the
something to do.
researcher guy from the get-go, and I would like. So yes, it's true. What could we say? Is there one particular lesson you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, there's 4 things that kind of make this business possible. There's presentation, duplication, social media, and leadership. So today I'm just want to impart some thoughts about the first one, and give you 4 quick tips that have helped me when giving a presentation, because a lot of us have to do presentations in a lot of our work that we do, whether we're presenting at the summit, or whether we're just presenting to the office, or whether we're presenting to our kids. It could be anywhere. So first, excuse me, before the meeting, set an intention. So one of my favorites is, let me listen and be of service today. And when you set the intention before you start, everything happens through that. Putting yourself in the right mindset lets you divorce yourself from the outcome and be more genuine and more direct with the people, and they feel more of a connection. Second, spend your initial time learning about the person you are speaking with by asking leading questions, not just yes or no stuff, questions about their family, their job, their hobbies, which builds a rapport and lets you learn how to better serve their needs, because we're really in a service business. And when we meet the needs of the people, everybody can get oils, they can get coaching, they can get from lots of different places. But what am I going to be bringing to the table that they're not going to get from Amazon, or from the run-of-the-mill place down the corner? So we really have to build that rapport. So the third piece is to listen for pain points in their lives. So they don't want to hear about how products or opportunities help me. They want to hear how I can help solve their problems. And when I really listen for the pain points, and we look at physical, emotional, financial, all different areas, we can help with these different products. And lastly, remember, silence is golden. Don't talk too much, because you run the risk of confusing them and sounding desperate yourself. So especially if you're doing some sort of sales work, they don't need to know all that we know, just enough to solve their problem, which is what they came to you in the first place for. So those are 4 quick tips that are really good when making a presentation.
Awesome. Thank you. That's very insightful, and it ties well into your connections. I think that's a beautiful reflection of the kind of approach you bring to working with people. I love that. So, Wayne, how do you define a success?
Well, as I mentioned back in 2018, I was able to make one of my dreams come true. I took 7 weeks to drive across the United States, visiting the 7 states I'd never been to, seeing friends old and new, taking in the splendor of this great country and some of its many national parks. Well, how was this possible? My business allows me to work anywhere and lean on the power of residual income. So the best part was that while I looked like I was on vacation to everyone else, my business actually grew. So it's really, that is the piece I think that allows me to really define success, is that I can work anywhere. And one of my favorite quotes is from Hunter Thompson from The Proud Highway Saga of a Desperate Southern Gentleman. It's life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride." That would be success.
I love it.
It's
love it.
like they say in the book, The Dash, there's on your gravestone, you have your birthday and your date of death. What's really important is that dash in the middle and making the most out of that dash in the middle.
I totally believe that. I totally believe that, because each and every day you can have an impact. There's a great new book out, and the author's premise is that you influence 80,000 people in your life.
I can see that.
And so you walk in at the end of life, and these 80,000 people are in an arena. Think about, University of Michigan arena. And are they booing or are they clapping? Isn't that something? Yeah, that's great, isn't it? So I think what we want to do is live a life that influences people positively and impacts their lives to lift them up, and gives each and every one of us an opportunity to think about what are they going to be doing, when we come into that arena at the end of our life. So I'm so excited that you're going to be joining us as a speaker on the cruise. And
I am too.
Tell us why you think your folks should come and join us.
Well, first of all, it's going to be, it's a short cruise. So if you don't have a lot of time, it's a great 4 days. So 2 days of class and a day in the middle, we get to spend exploring. And the days are going to be all about reinventing yourself and how you can make the most out of the circumstances that you're in, and with a whole bunch of different types of people who can help in one way or another. So there's a shaman, and there's I don't remember the list off the top of my head. You can rattle that off better. But there's a lot of different ways you can learn how to do how to help yourself, and come find what resonates with you the best, so that you can then choose one and move forward with your life. And it's, we can all reinvent ourselves every day in little ways. So, granted, I made a big change, and probably a lot of these people on this cruise also made a big change, which is why they're speaking on this cruise. But it's a great way of seeing what other people have done, and how you can maybe learn something from that and make a big change for yourself.
Right. Even if we only have to make a little change, making even a little change is sometimes so hard, because we're in the rut, we're in the comfort zone, and pushing that, like you said, pushing that foot out of the car and making yourself go in, and, you realize in your heart that something's not going on right. And I look at midlife crisis as midlife opportunity.
Yes.
An opportunity that it's time to reinvent. It's time to find a new way to make my life great. And that's what we're here for. So
when I was ready to make that change, my mother kept saying, you've got a great job. Do you know what you're giving up? I said, yeah, misery. Why should I be miserable the rest of my life? So it's,
my mother said the same thing to my brother when he wanted to go into ministerial school, because he had a great job. And, it's hard. It's hard for people around us to envision what we see and to encourage us sometimes. And so that's one of the reasons why you have to surround yourself with like-minded people that will support.
I think part of it is also they're afraid to make changes for themselves. So they don't want you to make it and see that they can do it, that kind of thing. So you're right. Surround yourself with the people who've done it so that they can inspire you and help you along the way to make your own change.
That's right. That's right. So tell our viewers what you've got as a giveaway for them.
Sure. When you click on, I guess there's a link that Bobby's going to have up that you'll get a free download questionnaire to begin the process of discovering what your strengths are and where your what you need to work on. So that'll be a quick download for you.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Wayne. I know that, again, I'm sure everybody that listens to this would like a little bit more Wayne. So hopefully they'll join us on the cruise.
Come on down.
Yes, you can use Wayne's little bit.ly link and join us and save $200 on your retreat fee. So that'll be awesome. And I look forward to getting to know you better, Wayne. I really am. And look forward to you live on the other side of the world, the other half of the world for me. So I'm looking forward to the cruise to get to know you in person.
Yeah.
So awesome. Thanks for being with me today. And,
it's my pleasure.
And I look
Thanks for
forward to
having
seeing you on the cruise. Thank you very much, Wayne. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching and listening to Wayne's interview. I invite you to pause your video and take a picture of Wayne's contact information so you can reach out to him and absolutely download his free gift. Some nice things to think about and take advantage of in your own life. 10 areas and with some individual ways to improve in each area. Don't try to do them all at once. There's a lot of good stuff there. Take a little bit of time to absorb and relate to what he's sharing with you. Again, Wayne will be a speaker on the Reinvention retreat coming in January, and I know we'd love it if you would join us. Please take advantage of the summit discount during the Reinvention Summit. That gives you a $200 discount off savings off of our Reinvention retreat fee. We hope to see you there. Thanks and have a great day. Our next summit will bring you some insights from Cindy Price and Cornita Riley. Both women have led very illustrious careers, Cindy in finance and Cornita as a mover and a shaker in the corrections industry here in Orlando and through the state of Florida. Both of them will give you some insights about now and what they're going through to reinvent themselves after change. And I know that their insights can be so powerful for you. I hope you'll tune in tomorrow as we welcome Cindy Price and Cornita Riley.